a country known for its beautiful landscapes, unique cuisine, and iconic wildlife. Everyone knows Canada's majestic moose and radiant beavers that represent our glowing nation with pride. But what about the creatures you don't know? Canada's cryptozoology. Everyone knows the beaver is Canada's national animal, but what is Canada's cryptid? What is Canada's creepy crawly or monster that goes pump in the night?
We believe these cryptids should be recognized as a part of Canadian identity, and so we chose to discuss some of our favorites.
Alright, let's start off with the Skinwalker. The Skinwalker is a shape-shifting being from Navajo legends. They were said to be a medicine man or woman that uses their abilities for evil acts, like rituals. They would kill an animal and wear the hide to misshape themselves into Yi Neldushi, which is another name for Skinwalker, which also meant it walks on all fours. The stories of Skinwalkers have been told throughout the southern provinces of Canada, like Saskatchewan or Alberta. Some people have caught Skinwalkers on trail cams or have seen them on highways, but they are still being thought to be fake. The Hide Behind. The Hide Behind is a being that is very tall, shaggy-haired, and looks like a bear. It stalked people out in the woods, most specifically lumberjacks. No one could ever get a clear look at it because it was always hiding behind the trees, which is where it got its name from. The story of this creature originates from the Great Lakes in the Pacific Northwest. For the most part, the Hide Behind was a tale told by the older lumberjacks in order to scare the new guys. However, this also led to the younger men to believe the tales, seeing that this kind of tied into the fact of the missing hikers' strange occurrences and the lumberjacks' injuries sustained while on the job. The Yukon Beaver Eater. The Yukon Beaver Eater is of course a very popular thing in the Yukon Territory of northern Canada. This creature is described to be gigantic. It has brownish orange fur and giant claws. People have reported seeing it along riverbanks while they are fishing, canoeing, hunting, or hiking. There are numerous stories about this beast, but this one is probably by far the best. An indigenous man was out hiking one day and saw this creature on the other side of the river eating part of a beaver. The man was terrified and went and told local authorities. Once he gave a description of the creature, it resembled the extinct giant ground sloth.
Probably one of the most prominent, if not the most popular, cryptid would be the Sasquatch or Bigfoot. It is a mythical, ape-like creature said to inhabit the remote forests and mountains of North America. The origin of Sasquatch lies in indigenous oral traditions of the Pacific Northwest and the anglicization of the Gaelic Emelin word Sasquatch, which roughly translates to hairy man or wild man. For thousands of years, Coast Salish and other First Nations and Native American groups have shared stories of giants, human-like, hairy-covered beings inhabiting the wilderness. Rather than just a flesh and bloody monster, these beings are often seen as spiritual guides, protectors of natures, and teachers of moral conduct, depending on the specific tribe and region. This creature is also known as Tesk Emiquis, Chinook, or Witico. The anglicized version of the word was coined in 1929 by J.W. Burns, a government Indian agent and teacher living amongst the St. Allies First Nations in British Columbia. Burns collected strange tales, and published a series of articles titled Introducing BC's Hairy Giant to the general public. The term Bigfoot originated much later, in 1958, when Northern California road workers found massive footprints and began using the moniker. The myth exploded in the 1960s to 70s, fueled by the localized hoaxes, alleged eyewitness encounters, and films like the famous 1967 Roger Pattinson and Bob Gimel footage. The most prominent places in which Bigfoot were located at the time, or potentially was found, would be British Columbia, specifically around the Harrison Hot Springs and Fraser Valley.
Old Yellowtop is a legendary Sasquatch-like cryptid found in northern Ontario region. It gets its name from the prominent blonde mane and, blonde head, giving it the Old Yellowtop name. It stands at roughly 7 to 8 feet tall, with two prominent sightings. The first one being in 1923, which I think was the first sighting, where two miners had seen the creature walking along the tree line. And then again in 1970, when a woman in Ontario had taken a photo and allegedly did not see the creature until after the film was developed, revealing a dark, blurry figure with a distinctive yellow mane.
Okay, the Thunderbird is a mythological bird that originated in First Nations culture, and he is a very powerful being, almost like a god in a sense. And he's really big, and he is probably one of, if not the most Canadian cryptid on this list, because of the First Nations started the folklore in a way. And yeah, he's just been around for a really long time.
Overall, we believe Canada's unconfirmed sites can be just as fun as the wildlife sightseeing Canada is known for today, and we thank you for joining us on our deep dive on Canadian cryptids.